A few weeks ago, Marcy went to Columbus, Ohio to visit her 1-month-old great-nephew, Spencer Gregory Velasquez. Now, if you want to look at him in person, he is sitting with his parents at that table back there. He found out he was the star, so he asked them if they'd bring him to Indianapolis today. It was an amazing time that she had, and she has a few hundred pictures to show you if you have an hour or so to kill. This is one of our favorites. Precious, isn't he? As I've grown older, I find myself saying that about every baby. Precious. Now, when I was younger, my babies were precious to me. Your babies were just, well, your babies, and I didn't really think about your babies being precious. But then I got older, and now all of a sudden, every child, every baby is precious. And every child and every baby is not just yours, it's ours. Every baby belongs to the world. So when Marcy got home, she marveled about how small Spencer was, and she said, his skin is so soft. And then she said something pretty profound. She said, the world hasn't scuffed him up yet. And I thought about those words for a few days. I thought about all the ways we get scuffed up by the world and what impact that has on us. It roughs us up. And I thought about how unfairly we are received and treated by others at times. And I thought about how our hearts become hardened once we've been hurt bitterly. And then I thought about how we become jaded and bitter and unable to have joy or love in our lives. And nobody wants that to happen to Spencer. Nobody wants that to happen to any of us. We're precious. But it does. All bitterness starts out as hurt. Someone hurt us by words or by deeds or by leaving us. And our emotional pain causes us to view the one who hurt us as a bad person who meant to harm us. And then our hurt turns into anger and then resentment and then finally bitterness. Psychologist Dr. Stephen Diamond defines bitterness as a chronic and pervasive state of smoldering resentment and one of the most destructive and toxic of human emotions. Bitterness is a stone that lodges in our heart, kind of like a kidney stone that never leaves our body. It causes us so much pain and anguish. So what do? How do we get this menace to leave? How do we kick bitterness to the curb? Well, I think we begin by trying to understand what bitterness is doing to us physically and emotionally so that we are then more motivated to kick it to the curb. But before I go any further, I want to be very clear about something. As I speak about bitterness and pain and how to get rid of it, I am not asking you to minimize or dismiss your pain. I am not sending the message that your feelings don't matter or that you shouldn't feel it. I'm not judging you or your experiences. Bitterness does a number on us, though. As our resentment smolders deep within us, we tend to ruminate over and over about how we've been victimized until such a point that we end up allowing the wrongs and our bitterness to define part of who we are. And then we end up becoming a victim of ourselves. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15 reads, "Watch out that no bitterness takes root among you. For as it springs up, it causes deep trouble." The person who wronged us is not sitting around thinking about us. The person who wronged us is in denial. We're hurting ourselves when we relive the experience over and over. We have to stop the bitterness from growing and consuming every single breath we take. Here's some of the trouble that bitterness creates. It makes us unable to see good things. Every time we talk, bitterness comes out of our mouth. Every time we start to enjoy ourselves, we stop the joyful feelings because we think we shouldn't be feeling it. We catch ourselves smiling and feeling good, and then bitterness reminds us that we can't trust anyone. Bitterness tells us that love won't last. Bitterness sits on our left shoulder and hisses at us for feeling anything but bad. Bitterness gives us anxiety and depression. Bitterness keeps us in the past, and it prevents us from moving forward or enjoying the present. Oh, bitterness loves it when we are back there where things were so awful. Of course, like a vengeful disease, bitterness robs us of our ideals, our dreams, our self-esteem, and our creativity. It just plain wears us out. Sometimes our bitterness is rooted in our loss. Sometimes people leave us. Sometimes people die. They died before we were ready to let them go. And logically, we know they didn't do that to us, but we're hurt by their leaving, and that hurt has turned into anger, and that anger has become a big old pile of bitterness, and we don't know how to get out from under it. Every person who tries to speak to us kindly and lovingly or well-intentioned receives our bitterness, and we can't stop ourselves. Ultimately, bitterness keeps us in bondage and steals our personality and our good memories. We need to be released from this prison called bitterness. Now, one way out of this prison is to access what is good within us and to stop trying to see ourselves as the sum product of our pain and our anger. Ultimately, and this is probably something you've heard many times, the best remedy for bitterness is forgiveness. Forgiveness enables us to let go of grievances and grudges and resentment. It's the single most potent antidote for our desire to get justice. It's also really hard to do. Here's one way to forgive, and it's a technique that I've actually used several times. To begin with, we spend some time truthfully focusing on the way our bitterness has negatively affected our life. And then we consider letting go of the bitterness and how that could actually improve our future. And then we write a letter to the person who harmed us the most. We describe their offenses toward us in detail, and then we forgive them and we let them go. And we let go of them. But we don't send the letter. We have forgiven the offender, and they don't even know it. That's kind of funny. Somehow that is our justice. And then we start visualizing our life without the negative impact of resentment and bitterness. And we begin again with a little softer skin, with a less jaded worldview, with our arms wide open in an effort to give and accept love. Bitterness blocks us from love and laughter and joy. Forgiveness unblocks us. Dogs are lucky. They don't hold grudges, they don't harbor resentments, and they don't get bitter. A few weeks ago, I shared with you the story of my dog, Gus, who was grieving the loss of his brother, Buster. Gus was the model of grief. Wouldn't he? Didn't know what to do. Lost without his brother. And as I have watched Gus move past his grief, I've noticed he isn't bitter. He is accepting his place in the world as the only dog in our house. He isn't mad at us. He's not holding a grudge that his brother is gone. He's accepting what is being offered to him, our love and our patience and our attention. He doesn't scowl and turn away from us because we're trying to love him and help him on his way to recovering joy in his life. He's going along with us. We all need to be more like Gus. There's a big, beautiful world out there of loving, compassionate people. There is a God who loves us undeniably and will never fail us. We need to be willing to kick our bitterness to the curb so we can embrace all of that love. When I was teaching high school, every year, about halfway through the year, I would ask my students to bring in a baby picture of themselves. Now, they always thought I was going to do something goofy with it, or do some sort of competition where we tried to match up the baby picture with which student, but that wasn't the purpose of the exercise. I would get the class quiet, and then I would ask them to take out the baby picture and hold it in their hand and look at it for a couple of minutes. And then I would start asking them some questions very quietly. I would say, how would you care for that baby if it was yours? And then I asked them how they would keep the baby safe. I asked them to look at the baby and to think about what it deserves. And then I would simply say, because all of your answers matter. Because you're caring for that baby right now. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you're taking that baby with you. Is that baby safe? Is it well loved? You're exposing that baby to everything you think and do and believe. Does this baby deserve better from you? You are that baby. Give yourself what you deserve. We are all little Spencer. Our skin will never be that soft again, and we are indeed a little scruffed up by the world. But we all deserve better. We all deserve to be released from the bondage of bitterness so that we can give and receive love. Let's kick bitterness to the curb. Amen. Author Roy Bennett wrote, "Believe in your heart that you're meant to live a life full of passion, purpose, magic, and miracles. When we believe those words, we will do what we can to get rid of all of the things that are stopping us from living that kind of life. I want that kind of life, and I think you do too. Have a great Sunday. Go in peace. Amen."